The buried ones. The air down there never moves. It sits heavy, thick with the smell of wet stone and human waste, a smell so old it seems to have soaked into the walls themselves. It is a scent that carries memory, decades of fear compressed into every breath, generations of forgotten souls whose only legacy is the stench they left behind. No torchlight reaches the deepest cells. Only a thin thread of daylight filters through a grate far above, and even that arrives pale and defeated, as if ashamed to touch such a place. The dungeon is not a room. It is a throat. And once swallowed, few ever see the sky again. They say the castle above glitters with banners and trumpet calls, with feasts that stretch into dawn. Minstrels sing of valor and honor. Ladies dance in silks that shimmer like water under candlelight. Wine flows from silver pitchers, and laughter echoes through halls hung with tapestries depicting heroes and saints. But beneath it all, beneath the marble and the music and the illusion of order, men and women rot in silence. Some are nobles who bet on the wrong heir, who whispered support for a claimant who lost. Others are commoners who spoke a single word too many, who questioned a tax or challenged a judgment in the town square. A few are priests accused of heresy, their rosaries still clutched in their fists, their lips still moving in silent prayer to a god who seems to have abandoned them. The dungeon does not care. It takes them all with the same cold indifference, the same patient hunger. There is a woman here, pressed against the wall in a corner cell. Her name was once spoken in drawing rooms, murmured with envy and admiration. She was a lady-in-waiting to the queen, trusted with secrets and confidences, dressed in gowns of imported velvet and jewels that caught the light like captured stars. Now she wears the remains of that velvet gown, the fabric black with mold, disintegrating at the seams. Her wrists bear the scars of iron manacles that were removed weeks ago, though she still feels their weight. Ghost chains, pressing into flesh that has grown thin and pale. She does not scream anymore. Screaming only brings the guards, and the guards bring worse things than silence. Worse than hunger. Worse than cold. So she has learned to make herself small, to fold into the corner like a shadow, to breathe so quietly that even the rats ignore her. She remembers the day they came for her. It was during a banquet, the hall alive with music and the clatter of plates. A captain of the guard whispered something into the king's ear, and the king's face darkened. He did not look at her. He never looked at her. He simply nodded, and two soldiers appeared at her side, their hands firm on her arms. She was escorted from the hall without explanation, without trial, without the chance to defend herself against accusations she still does not fully understand. Treason, they said. Conspiracy. But conspiracy with whom? For what purpose? She asked these questions 100 times in the first days, her voice raw from shouting them into the indifferent stone. No one answered. No one ever answers. Across from her, in a cell so narrow he cannot fully extend his arms, a man carves lines into the stone with a shard of bone. One line for each day. He stopped counting after 300. The wall beside him is covered in scratches, a calendar of despair that stretches from floor to ceiling. His crime was debt. His sentence was indefinite. A merchant who borrowed silver to expand his trade, then watched his ship sink in a storm off the coast. He could not repay the lord who had loaned him the money, and so the lord took payment in years. How many years, the merchant does not know. Perhaps all of them. Perhaps the rest of his life will be measured in these scratches, in the slow grinding passage of days that blur together into a single endless gray. He no longer remembers his children's faces, only their voices, faint and distorted, like echoes heard underwater. Sometimes, in the moments between sleep and waking, he hears his daughter laughing. She was 7 when he last saw her, gap-toothed and wild-haired, always running, always asking questions he couldn't answer. Is she still alive? Is she a woman now, married perhaps, with children of her own? Or did she starve after he was taken, with no one left to provide for her? He does not know. And not knowing is a kind of death all its own. Above them, the castle bells ring for vespers. The sound drifts down through layers of stone and earth, muffled, distant, like something from another world. And perhaps it is. The world of bells and prayers and sunlight feels impossibly far from this place, as remote and unreachable as heaven itself. The woman in the corner tilts her head, listening. She was devout once. She attended Mass every morning, confessed her sins every week, believed with absolute certainty that God watched over the faithful and punished the wicked. But if that is true, then what does it mean that she is here? What sin has she committed to deserve this grave? Or is it possible, and this is the thought that terrifies her most, that God is not watching at all? That the world above and the world below operate by different laws, by no laws, by nothing but accident and cruelty and the whims of men who hold keys? The bells fade. The silence returns, thicker than before. In the darkness, someone coughs, a wet, rattling sound that speaks of illness taking root. Someone else weeps softly, the sound barely audible, a private grief offered to no one. The woman closes her eyes. She has learned that sleep is the only escape, the only place where the walls do not press so close, where the smell does not choke, where she can dream of open fields and wind and the taste of bread still warm from the oven. But even sleep is no refuge. Because in her dreams, she is still here. Still buried. Still waiting for a door that will never open, for a pardon that will never come, for a voice to call her name and pull her back into the light. The merchant across from her sets down his bone shard. His hand is shaking. He stares at the wall of scratches, at the monument to his own slow erasure, and for a moment he considers stopping. What is the point of counting days when the days have no end? What is the point of marking time when time has lost all meaning? But then, with a sigh that sounds like surrender, he picks up the shard again and carves another line. Because it is all he has left. This ritual. This small, stubborn insistence that he still exists, that he is still human, that somewhere beyond these walls, there is a world that remembers him. Even if it doesn't. Even if he has already been forgotten. And somewhere far above, in rooms filled with light and laughter, the feast continues. The wine flows. The music plays. And no one thinks of the ones below. No one wonders what became of the lady-in-waiting who vanished one night. No one asks about the merchant who owed silver and paid in years. They are gone. Erased. Buried beneath the foundations of a world that has no use for them. The dungeon holds them. Patient. Silent. Eternal. And the darkness waits. The nameless. The first thing they take from you is your name. Not officially. No scribe records it. No jailer crosses it from a ledger. But after enough time in the dark, after enough days without hearing it spoken aloud, it simply dissolves. Like salt in water. Like breath in winter air. You become a number scratched into a logbook. A body occupying space. A problem stored underground until it rots away or is forgotten, whichever comes first. The dungeon beneath the castle is older than the castle itself. It was carved from bedrock centuries before the first tower rose, back when this land belonged to warlords who had no use for trials or mercy. Men who understood that power is not maintained through justice, but through fear. Through the knowledge that anyone, at any moment, can be made to disappear. The cells are small, barely tall enough to stand in, barely wide enough to lie down. Some have chains bolted into the floor, the iron corroded with rust and something darker, blood, perhaps, or the residue of bodies that decomposed in their shackles. Others have nothing but a wooden bucket and a scattering of straw that has not been changed in months, maybe years. The smell is beyond description. It is a living thing, a presence that clings to your skin and hair and crawls into your throat. It becomes part of you. After a while, you stop noticing it. After a while, you smell like the dungeon. You are the dungeon. There is a boy here, no older than 15. He was caught stealing bread from a monastery kitchen. Not silver. Not jewels. Bread. A single loaf, still warm, tucked under his tunic as he ran through the gates. The monks forgave him. They understood hunger. They had taken vows of poverty and knew what it meant to go without. But the Lord did not forgive. The Lord saw only theft, only the breaking of his law, only an opportunity to remind his people what happens to those who take what does not belong to them. And so the boy was dragged here, screaming, begging, promising he would never steal again. His promises meant nothing. He has been here for 2 years. His legs no longer work properly. The cold and the damp have twisted his joints into something gnarled and useless, the cartilage eaten away by the relentless wet. He spends his days curled on his side, tracing shapes in the condensation that gathers on the stones. Sometimes he draws his mother's face, though the details are fading from his memory. Was her nose long or short? Were her eyes brown or green? He cannot remember. Sometimes he draws the sun, a circle with lines radiating outward, the way a child draws it. He has not seen the sun in so long that he no longer knows if he is drawing it correctly. Perhaps the sun does not look like this at all. Perhaps it never did. He whispers to himself sometimes. Not prayers. Not words, exactly. Just sounds. The syllables of his own name, repeated over and over, as if the repetition alone can keep it alive. Can keep him alive. But even that is fading. Even that is slipping away. Soon, he will forget what he was called. He will forget that he was ever anything other than this, a broken thing curled in the dark, waiting for a death that takes its time. In the cell beside him, an old man prays in Latin. He was a scribe once, employed by a merchant guild to copy contracts and record transactions. Trusted. Respected. Then someone noticed a discrepancy in a land deed, a signature that looked too clean, too practiced. He was accused of forgery. He insists he is innocent. He has insisted this every day for 4 years, to the guards, to the rats, to the indifferent stone. No one listens. His voice has grown thin and reedy from disuse, like a wind passing through a crack in a wall. He prays not for release, but for death. He prays that it will come quickly, quietly, without pain. He has been praying for 4 years. His Latin is flawless, shaped by decades of study, by long hours bent over manuscripts in candlelit scriptoriums. Pater noster, quies in caelis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The words are a rhythm, a heartbeat, the only structure left in a world that has lost all structure. He recites them until they lose meaning, until they are just sounds, just syllables strung together like beads on a rosary. And still he prays. Because what else is there? What else can a man do when everything has been taken from him except the breath in his lungs and the words he learned as a child? Above, in the great hall, a wedding is being celebrated. Music drifts down through the stones, faint and cheerful, impossibly distant. The high, bright notes of a lute. The deep thrum of a drum. Voices raised in song, in laughter, in celebration. The boy tilts his head, listening. He wonders what they are celebrating. He wonders if the bride is beautiful, if her gown is white, if her hair is woven with flowers. He wonders if she is happy. He wonders if she knows that beneath her feet, beneath the floor she dances on, there are people who will never dance again. The music swells, then fades. Somewhere, a door slams. The echo travels through the corridors, sharp and final, and then there is only silence again. The boy closes his eyes. He tries to remember what music sounds like. Real music, not the muffled ghost of it filtering down from another world. But the memory will not come. It is like trying to hold water in his hands. The harder he grasps, the faster it slips away. The old man finishes his prayer and begins again. Pater noster, quies in caelis. Over and over. An endless loop. A plea that goes unanswered. The boy listens, and for a moment, he almost envies the old man. Because the old man still believes. Still thinks that someone is listening. Still clings to the hope that his prayers mean something, that they are being recorded somewhere in some celestial ledger, that they will be rewarded in a life to come. The boy does not believe anymore. He stopped believing a long time ago. He has seen too much. Felt too much. He knows now that there is no one listening. That the world is divided into 2 realms, the one above, where people live and love and dance and die in their own time, and the one below, where people simply wait. Where they are stored like grain in a silo, like tools in a shed, until they are no longer useful. Until they are no longer anything. Footsteps echo in the corridor. Heavy. Deliberate. The jangle of keys. The boy's heart quickens despite himself. Despite knowing better. Despite 2 years of learning that hope is a lie. The footsteps grow closer. Closer. Then they pass. They always pass. The door does not open. The light does not come. The boy exhales slowly, the breath shuddering in his chest, and curls tighter into himself. The old man does not pause. His prayer continues, uninterrupted, as steady and unchanging as the drip of water from the ceiling. As if nothing happened. As if the footsteps were not a promise, a possibility, a brief flicker of something that might have been salvation. He knows better now. He has learned. And in the darkness, in the cold, in the endless waiting, the two of them remain. The boy who has forgotten his name. The old man who prays to a God who does not answer. Both of them buried alive. Both of them already ghosts. Somewhere above, the wedding feast continues. The torches burn. The wine flows. And no one thinks of the nameless ones below. No one remembers. No one ever does. The weight of hymns. They built the dungeon beneath the chapel. Some say it was intentional, a reminder that judgment comes from God and man alike. That sin must be punished in this life before it can be forgiven in the next. That the architecture itself is a sermon, the damned buried beneath the righteous, hell positioned directly below heaven. Others say it was simply convenient, that the bedrock was soft there and easy to excavate, that the builders thought nothing of symbolism and cared only for efficiency. Either way, the prisoners can hear the hymns. Every Sunday, voices rise through the ceiling in Latin, singing of salvation and mercy and the forgiveness of sins. The prisoners listen in the dark, and some of them weep. The sound is muffled, distorted by layers of stone and earth, but the melody carries. Kyrie eleison. Christ eleison. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. The words drift down like ash, settling over the prisoners like a blessing or a curse, depending on what remains of their faith. Some mouth the words along with the congregation above, their lips moving in silent prayer, their voices too weak to join the chorus. Others cover their ears, unable to bear the reminder of what they have lost, the light of stained glass windows, the warmth of candle smoke, the comfort of kneeling among neighbors who knew their names. And a few simply stare into the darkness, their faces blank, as if the hymns are being sung in a language they no longer understand. The dungeon is not one room but many, a labyrinth of narrow corridors and low arches that twist back on themselves like the coils of a serpent. The passages were not designed for navigation but for confusion, for the psychological weight of knowing that even if you escaped your cell, you would never find your way out. Some cells are so deep that no sound from the surface ever reaches them. In those places, time loses all meaning. Day and night become the same unbroken gray. Hunger becomes a constant companion, a dull ache that never sharpens, never fades, simply persists. It hollows you from the inside, carving out space where hope used to live, where memory used to reside, leaving only the animal urge to survive one more hour, one more breath. There is a knight here, stripped of his armor and his titles. Sir Edmund of Ashford, they called him once. A man who rode into battle under the king's banner, who swore oaths of loyalty on bended knee, who believed that honor and service would be rewarded with land and legacy. He was caught plotting against the king, or so the accusation reads. A letter was found, unsigned, detailing plans to support a rival claimant to the throne. The handwriting was not his. The seal was not his. But the letter was discovered in his chambers, and that was evidence enough. He denies it still, though his voice has grown hoarse from repetition. I am loyal, he says to the stone walls. I have always been loyal. But the walls do not answer. The walls do not care. His hands, once steady enough to wield a sword in battle, now tremble uncontrollably. He holds them before his face in the darkness, watching the tremors run through his fingers like small earthquakes. He does not know if it is from cold or fear or something deeper, some unraveling that began the moment the dungeon door closed behind him. He has tried to stop the shaking. He has clenched his fists until his nails drew blood, has pressed his palms flat against the floor until they went numb. But the trembling continues. It is as if his body knows something his mind refuses to accept, that he will never hold a sword again, never ride into battle, never feel the sun on his face or the wind at his back. That this cell is the last place he will ever see. He thinks of his wife often. She was allowed to visit once, in the early days, before the trial that never happened. She stood on the other side of the iron grate, her face pale, her hands clutching a bundle of bread and dried meat that the guards would not let her pass through. She said his name. Just his name. And he broke. He who had faced enemy lines without flinching, who had seen men die beside him and continued fighting, collapsed against the bars and wept like a child. She tried to reach through the grate to touch him, but the bars were too narrow, the space between them too great. They stood there, fingertips almost touching, and said nothing. What was there to say? That he loved her? She knew. That he was innocent? She believed him. That he would come home? They both knew that was a lie. In the women's wing, separated by a locked iron grate and a corridor that echoes with the sound of dripping water, a midwife waits for a trial that will never come. Her name is Margaret. She has delivered more than 200 children in her lifetime, has guided them from darkness into light, has placed them in their mother's arms and watched joy bloom on faces twisted with pain moments before. She delivered a stillborn child to a baron's wife and was blamed for the death. The baby was blue when it emerged, the cord wrapped twice around its neck, its limbs already stiff. She tried to explain that the baby was already gone, that no amount of prayer or skill could have saved it, that death sometimes comes before birth and there is nothing anyone can do to stop it. But grief does not listen to reason. Grief demands a villain. And so here she sits, her hands still stained with blood that will not wash away, no matter how many times she scrubs them against the wet stone. She scrubs them every day. Every hour, perhaps. It is impossible to tell. She dips her fingers into the puddle of condensation that collects in the corner of her cell and rubs them raw against the rough surface of the wall, watching the skin redden and crack and bleed. But the stains remain. Brown and rust-colored, embedded in the creases of her palms, the whorls of her fingerprints. She knows, logically, that the blood is long gone, that what she sees now is just shadow and grime and the tricks her mind plays in the darkness. But she cannot stop. She cannot bear to look at her hands and see the baby's blood, real or imagined, marking her as a murderer. Above them, the hymn continues. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world, have mercy on us. The knight closes his eyes and lets the words wash over him. He was raised in the church, baptized as an infant, confirmed as a boy. He believed once that God was just, that the innocent would be vindicated and the guilty punished. He does not know what he believes anymore. The midwife presses her forehead against the cold stone and whispers a prayer of her own, not in Latin but in the language of her childhood, the words her mother taught her. She prays for the baron's wife, that her grief will ease. She prays for the baby, that its soul found peace. She prays for herself, though she does not expect an answer. Somewhere above, a bell tolls the hour. The sound reverberates through the chapel, through the floor, through the layers of earth and stone, reaching the dungeon as a faint, mournful vibration. Down here, no one knows which hour it is. Midday? Vespers? Compline? Time is just another thing the dungeon has swallowed. It moves differently here, slower or faster or not at all. Minutes stretch into hours. Hours collapse into seconds. The prisoners measure their lives not in days but in heartbeats, in breaths, in the slow erosion of everything they once were. And still the hymn rises. Still the voices sing of mercy. Still the light above shines on, indifferent to the darkness below. The forgotten. The worst part is not the hunger. It is not the cold, though the cold is brutal, seeping through the stones and into your bones until you forget what warmth feels like. Until the memory of sunlight becomes something distant and dreamlike, something that might have happened to someone else in another lifetime. It is not even the rats, though they come in numbers, fearless and patient, their eyes gleaming in the darkness, waiting for you to sleep so they can gnaw at your fingers and toes. You learn to sleep sitting up, arms crossed over your chest, hands tucked into your armpits where they cannot be reached. You learn to wake at the slightest rustle, the softest scratch of claws on stone. The worst part is the waiting. The not knowing. The slow, grinding realization that you have been forgotten. No trial was ever scheduled. No sentence was ever pronounced. You were simply brought here, chained to a wall, and left. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. At first, you shouted. You demanded to see a magistrate, a priest, anyone who could explain what was happening, who could tell you how long you would be kept here, what you were accused of, what evidence existed against you. But the guards ignored you, or worse, laughed. One of them, a thick-necked man with broken teeth, told you that the dungeons were full of men who thought they deserved answers. That demanding justice was the surest sign you would never receive it. Eventually, you stopped shouting. Eventually, you stopped expecting anything at all. There is a merchant here, accused of smuggling foreign grain during a famine. His name is Thomas. He is guilty. He admits it freely, to himself if not to anyone else. When the king's decree came down forbidding the import of grain from across the channel, he ignored it. He saw an opportunity. The local harvest had failed for the third year running, bread prices were soaring, and people were starving in the streets. He could buy wheat cheap in Flanders and sell it dear in London, feed his family and his workers and still turn a profit. He thought he was being clever. He thought he was being merciful, even. What good was a law that condemned people to starvation? But the king did not see it as mercy. The king saw it as defiance. As theft of royal revenue. As treason dressed up in the language of charity. Thomas does not believe he deserves this. He believed he would pay a fine, perhaps lose his license to trade, perhaps be banned from the Guildhall for a year or two. He did not believe he would be buried alive beneath a castle, left to starve in the dark while the world above moved on without him. The irony is not lost on him. He who tried to prevent starvation now starves himself, his ribs showing through his skin, his stomach a hollow cave that gnaws at itself. He thinks of his wife often. Her name is Anne. She has a laugh like bells and hands roughened by work, hands that smelled of bread dough and lavender. He wonders if she has remarried. He hopes she has. He does not want her to wait for a man who will never return. He does not want her to waste her life grieving for a ghost. He has tried to calculate how long he has been here, but the numbers no longer make sense. He counts the meals they bring, a crust of bread and a cup of water, sometimes with weevils, sometimes without. 1 meal per day, he assumes, though he cannot be certain. Perhaps it is 2. Perhaps it is 3. Perhaps time itself moves differently in this place, stretching and compressing like a blacksmith's bellows. He has lost teeth. His hair has grown long and matted. His fingernails are cracked and yellow. He is becoming something else. Something less than human. Something the world above will not recognize even if he ever sees it again. In the adjoining cell, separated by a wall so thin he can hear every breath she takes, a woman hums a lullaby. Her name is Isabel. She was a wet nurse in the castle, beloved by the children she cared for. They called her Bella. They clung to her skirts and begged for stories and fell asleep with their heads in her lap while she sang to them. Then one of those children fell ill and died, and someone needed to be blamed. The physicians could not explain it. The priests offered only empty platitudes about God's will. But the child's mother, mad with grief, demanded an answer. And Isabel was convenient. She was expendable. A servant. A woman with no family, no husband, no one to defend her. The accusation was vague, witchcraft, perhaps, or poison, or simple neglect. It did not matter. She was taken in the night, dragged from her bed, thrown into this cell without explanation or trial. Now she hums to herself, the same tune over and over, a melody she once sang to the children at bedtime. Lully, lulle, thou little tiny child. Bye-bye, lully, lulle. The words are lost, swallowed by the darkness, but the melody remains. She hums it as if the song itself is a rope she can climb back to the surface, as if the notes can carry her out of this place and into the light. But the song never ends. She starts it over as soon as she reaches the final phrase, looping it endlessly, her voice cracked and tuneless, a sound that might be mistaken for weeping if you did not listen closely. And the surface never comes. Thomas listens to her humming through the wall. At first, it drove him mad, the repetition like water dripping on stone, wearing away at his sanity one note at a time. He banged on the wall and shouted for her to stop, but she did not hear him or did not care. Now he finds it almost comforting. Proof that he is not alone. Proof that someone else is still alive in this tomb, still clinging to whatever small thing keeps them tethered to the world. He does not know her name. He does not know her crime. But he knows her song, and that is something. That is more than nothing. Footsteps echo in the corridor above. Heavy boots. The jangle of keys on an iron ring. Someone is coming. Thomas's heart leaps despite himself, despite months of learning better. He presses his face against the bars of his cell, peering into the darkness, waiting for the torchlight to appear, for the keys to turn in his lock, for the door to open and a voice to say, "You are free. This was all a mistake. Go home." But the footsteps grow closer, then recede. They always walk past. The keys rattle but do not turn. The torch moves on, its light never quite reaching his cell, and the darkness closes in again. Isabel stops humming. In the sudden silence, Thomas can hear her breathing, ragged and uneven, as if she too had hoped. As if she too had allowed herself, for just one moment, to believe that someone was coming for her. The silence stretches. Then, softly, she begins to hum again. The same song. The same melody. Lully, lulle. And Thomas closes his eyes and listens. Because it is the only thing left to do. Because hope, no matter how foolish, is harder to kill than the body. Because even in the dark, even in the cold, even in the absolute certainty that no one is coming, the human heart continues to beat. Continues to wait. Continues, against all reason, to believe that tomorrow might be different. Even when it never is. The language of stone. The dungeon has its own language. Not words, but sounds. The drip of water from a crack in the ceiling, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Each drop falls with perfect regularity, marking time in a place where time has ceased to matter. The scrape of chains against stone when someone shifts position, a metallic whisper that speaks of movement without freedom, of bodies trying to find comfort where none exists. The low moan of wind passing through some unseen gap in the masonry, a sound so mournful it seems almost human, as if the dungeon itself is crying. And beneath it all, constant and inescapable, the breathing. Dozens of prisoners, exhaling and inhaling in the dark, their breath visible in the freezing air, rising like small ghosts before dissolving into nothing. This is the symphony of the buried. A composition written in suffering, performed in darkness, heard by no one who has the power to end it. The prisoners learn to read these sounds the way sailors read the sea. The sudden silence when the breathing stops in a nearby cell means another death, another body that will lie undiscovered for days until the smell becomes too powerful to ignore. The quickening of chains means panic, someone fighting against restraints that will never yield. The soft weeping that comes late at night, when exhaustion finally breaks through pride, means someone has just realized they will die here. That this stone cage is the last thing they will ever know. Some of the cells have been sealed. Not locked. Sealed. Bricked up entirely, with the prisoner still inside. It is a punishment reserved for the worst offenses. Treason against the crown. Assassination attempts that failed by inches. Speaking against the king in ways that cannot be forgiven, words that once spoken cannot be unsaid, cannot be erased, can only be silenced by silencing the speaker forever. The masons work quickly, mixing mortar and stacking stones while the condemned scream and beat their fists against the growing wall. They know what is happening. They can see the light narrowing, the opening shrinking with each brick laid. They scream for mercy. They scream their innocence. They scream until their voices break and their throats bleed. Within an hour, the screaming stops. Within a day, the silence is absolute. The cell becomes a tomb. The other prisoners listen to this. They cannot help but listen. The sound carries through the corridors, bouncing off stone walls, echoing in the darkness. Some cover their ears. Some pray. Some simply close their eyes and wait for it to end, knowing that what they are hearing could just as easily be their own fate. The dungeon does not offer the mercy of distance. It forces you to witness. It forces you to know, in visceral detail, exactly what awaits if you displease the wrong person, if you are accused of the wrong crime, if your face simply reminds someone of an enemy they wish to destroy. There is a priest here, accused of practicing witchcraft. His name is Father Anselm. He is innocent. He has said so 1,000 times, to the guards who bring his bread, to the rats that share his cell, to God himself in prayers that grow more desperate with each passing day. But accusations of witchcraft do not require proof. They require only fear. And fear, once planted, grows wild and unchecked, spreading through a community like plague, turning neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. Someone claimed they saw him speaking to spirits in the graveyard. Someone else swore his prayers were in a language that was not Latin, not English, but something older, something darker. A child fell ill after he blessed her, and though she recovered, the suspicion remained. Witchcraft. The word alone is enough. He prays constantly, his lips moving in the dark, reciting psalms and paternosters, clinging to the words like a drowning man clings to driftwood. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. But there are no green pastures here. Only stone and darkness and the slow erosion of everything he thought was true. He believed in justice. He believed that innocence was a shield, that truth would set him free, that God protected those who served him faithfully. He has served faithfully for 30 years. He has baptized children and married lovers and buried the dead. He has given last rites to plague victims, touching their fevered skin when others fled in terror. He has never asked for anything in return. And yet here he is, chained in the dark, accused of consorting with demons he does not believe exist. He believes that if he prays hard enough, long enough, God will intervene. That an angel will descend, or a bolt of lightning will strike the castle, or the king himself will be visited by a dream that reveals the truth. He believes he will be vindicated. He believes this even as his body weakens, even as his voice fades to a whisper, even as the cold begins to take him inch by inch. His fingers are numb. His feet have lost all feeling. The cough that started weeks ago has deepened, settled in his lungs, turned wet and rattling. He tastes blood when he coughs now. He knows what this means. He has sat beside enough dying men to recognize the signs. But still he prays. Because what else can he do? What else is left to a man of God when God seems to have abandoned him? Above, in the castle courtyard, children play. Their laughter drifts down through the stones, bright and clear, impossibly distant. A girl shrieks with delight as she's chased around the well. A boy shouts triumph as he wins some game whose rules Father Anselm will never know. The sounds are so pure, so unmarked by suffering, that they seem to come from another world entirely. And perhaps they do. Perhaps the world above and the world below have nothing to do with each other. Perhaps they exist in parallel, one bathed in sunlight and innocence, the other drowned in darkness and despair, and the distance between them is not measured in feet but in something far greater, something unbridgeable. It is the cruelest sound in the world. Not because it is harsh or painful, but because it is beautiful. Because it reminds the prisoners of what they have lost, of what they will never have again. Of the simple, thoughtless joy of being alive in the sun, of running without chains, of laughing without fear. The children do not know that beneath their feet, men and women are dying slowly, praying for deaths that will not come quickly, clutching to memories of laughter that sound just like theirs. Father Anselm listens to the children and weeps. Not for himself, though he has reason enough. He weeps for them. For their innocence. For the world they inhabit, where dungeons exist beneath courtyards, where the foundations of their games are built on the graves of the forgotten. He weeps because he knows that some of those children will grow up to be guards, masons, judges. That some of them will one day send others to places like this. That the cycle will continue, turning and turning, grinding the innocent and guilty alike into dust. The laughter fades. The children are called inside for their lessons, their meals, their warm beds. And Father Anselm is left in the silence again, in the dark, with only the language of stone to keep him company. The drip of water. The scrape of chains. The mournful wind. The breathing of the damned. He closes his eyes and prays. But the words, when they come, sound like screams. The stories they tell. There are stories about the dungeon, whispered among the servants and guards. Stories told in the kitchens late at night, when the fires have burned low and the shadows grow long. Stories shared in the barracks over cups of ale, voices dropping to murmurs when the subject turns to the cells below. Stories of men who went mad down there, clawing at the walls until their fingers bled, leaving scratch marks in the stone that remain visible decades later, like the desperate signatures of the damned. Stories of men who screamed prayers and curses in languages no one recognized, words that might have been Latin twisted by madness or something older, something that predated the castle, the kingdom, the very idea of kingdoms. Stories of women who gave birth in the dark, alone, their newborns dead within hours from cold or hunger, or simply from being born into a place where life cannot take root. The guards say you can still hear the babies crying sometimes, late at night, when the castle sleeps. A thin, mewling sound that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. And there are stories of prisoners who simply vanished, their cells found empty one morning, the chains still locked, the door still sealed. No one knows where they went. The rational mind offers explanations, a forgotten passage, perhaps, or a crack in the foundation wide enough to crawl through. But the guards do not speak of rational explanations. They speak of spirits. Of prisoners who died but refused to leave, who walk the corridors still, searching for the way out they never found in life. They speak of the dungeon itself as a living thing, a beast with an appetite, swallowing souls whole and leaving no trace behind. No one asks too many questions. Because to ask is to invite attention. And attention, in this place, is the last thing anyone wants. The dungeon is not designed for rehabilitation. There are no programs of reform, no priests offering counsel, no path back to the world above. It is designed for erasure. To be sent here is to be removed from the record of the living, to become a name that is no longer spoken, a face that is no longer remembered. Your property is seized. Your debts are forgiven or transferred. Your place at the table, in the guild, in the congregation, is filled by someone else. Within months, it is as if you never existed at all. Some prisoners accept this. They understand, with a clarity that borders on madness, that resistance is pointless. They curl up in their cells and let the darkness take them, quietly, without resistance. They stop eating. They stop moving. They simply wait for the end, welcoming it when it comes like an old friend. Others fight. They rage against the stone and the silence and the slow suffocation of being forgotten. They shout their names to anyone who will listen, carving them into walls with fingernails and shards of bone, desperate to leave some mark that proves they were here, that they mattered, that they were real. They pound on the doors until their fists are ruined. They weep and plead and bargain with guards who have heard it all before, who have learned to look through prisoners as if they are already ghosts. But the dungeon is patient. It does not argue. It does not hurry. It simply waits. It has swallowed thousands before them. It will swallow thousands more. Time is on its side. Time is all it has. There is a soldier here, captured during a failed rebellion. His name is William. He fought for a cause he believed in, for a lord he thought was just. Lord Edmund of Thornbury, who spoke of fairness and reform, who promised to reduce the taxes that were starving the peasants, who said he would stand against the king's tyranny even if it cost him everything. And it did cost him everything. The rebellion lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of hope, of men gathering in fields and forests, of banners raised and oaths sworn. 6 weeks before the king's army arrived and crushed them like insects beneath a boot. Lord Edmund was executed publicly, his head displayed on a spike above the city gates as a warning to anyone else who might consider defiance. William watched from the crowd, his hands bound, awaiting his own turn on the scaffold. But his turn never came. Instead, he was brought here, buried beneath the earth, waiting for a death that takes its time arriving. He does not regret his choices. Not the rebellion. Not the oath he swore to Lord Edmund. Not the battles he fought, the friends he lost, the blood he spilled in the name of something he thought was worth dying for. He regrets only that no one will remember them. That the history books, if they mention the rebellion at all, will call it a minor uprising, quickly suppressed, of no lasting consequence. That his name will die with him in this cold, wet grave. That his children, if they are still alive, if they survived what came after, will grow up not knowing their father was brave. That he stood for something. That he mattered. He has tried to keep himself strong. He does exercises in his cell, what little movement the chains allow. Pushes against the walls. Tenses and releases his muscles. But his body is failing. The damp has gotten into his joints. His breathing is labored. The wound he took in the final battle, a sword cut across his ribs that never healed properly, weeps infection. He knows his time is short. And there is a strange comfort in that. In knowing that the waiting is almost over. That soon he will join Lord Edmund and all the others who believed in something greater than themselves, even if that belief led only to this. In the farthest cell, the one deepest underground, where no light has reached in living memory, there is a woman who has been here longer than anyone can recall. The guards call her the ghost. They do not remember her name. They do not remember her crime. Some of them were not yet born when she was first brought here. She no longer speaks. She no longer eats, though they leave food anyway, more out of habit than hope. The bread grows moldy. The water grows stagnant. She does not touch them. She simply sits, perfectly still, her back against the wall, her eyes open but unseeing, as if she is looking at something far beyond these stones. Far beyond this world. Some say she is already dead. That what sits in that cell is just a body waiting to realize it should fall. Some say she is waiting. For what? No one knows. For rescue? For judgment? For the second coming? The guards make the sign of the cross when they walk past her cell. Some of them leave small offerings, a flower picked from the courtyard, a crust of bread fresher than what she's given, a whispered prayer. They do not know why. Perhaps because she frightens them. Perhaps because she reminds them that there are worse things than death. That it is possible to be forgotten so completely that you forget yourself. And in the darkness, in the silence, in the cold that never lifts, the dungeon holds them all. The soldier who fought for honor. The ghost who waits for nothing. The thousands of others whose names are already lost, whose stories were never told, whose graves are unmarked because they were buried alive. The castle above continues. Feasts are held. Marriages celebrated. Children born. And beneath it all, the foundation stands firm, built on the bones of the forgotten. Built on stories no one dares to finish. The keeper. The dungeon keeper is a man without a name. Or perhaps he had one once, long ago, before this place claimed him. Before the darkness seeped into his bones and made him part of its architecture. He descends the stone steps every morning with a torch in one hand and a ring of iron keys in the other, the same ritual he has performed for 20 years. 20 years of walking the same path, touching the same doors, seeing the same despair etched into faces that change but never truly differ. His face is pale from lack of sunlight, the color of something that grows in caves, something that has forgotten what warmth means. His eyes are hollow and unblinking, as if he has seen too much and now sees nothing at all. He does not speak to the prisoners. He does not acknowledge their pleas or their prayers or their desperate attempts at conversation. When they cry out to him, "Please, just tell me how long I've been here," or "Is there any word from my family," or simply "Please," he moves past them as if they are ghosts, as if their voices are just another sound the dungeon makes, no different from the drip of water or the scuttle of rats. He simply unlocks the cells, empties the waste buckets, leaves a crust of bread and a cup of water, and locks the doors again. Efficient. Mechanical. Emotionless. To speak would be to acknowledge their humanity. And to acknowledge their humanity would be to acknowledge his own complicity in their suffering. So he says nothing. He has said nothing for 20 years. The prisoners watch him pass with a mixture of hatred and desperate hope. Some spit at him through the bars, though their mouths are too dry to produce much. Some beg. Some simply stare, their eyes tracking his movement like animals watching a predator, calculating whether he poses immediate danger or can be safely ignored. A few have tried to attack him over the years, lunging at the bars when he comes close, reaching through with skeletal hands to grab at his cloak, his keys, any part of him they can touch. He has learned to stay just out of reach. He has learned that violence, when it comes, is always preceded by a certain stillness, a tension in the air that he can feel before it breaks. He has learned many things in 20 years. Things he wishes he could forget. But sometimes, late at night, when the castle above has gone silent and the torches have burned low, he sits on the bottom step and listens. He tells himself he is resting. That his knees ache from the stairs. That he is an old man now and entitled to a moment's peace. But that is not why he sits. He sits because something in him needs to bear witness. Needs to hear. Needs to remember that the sounds coming from these cells are made by people, not by the dungeon itself. He listens to the breathing, the weeping, the whispered confessions that echo through the corridors like the voices of the damned. He listens to the man in cell 7 who recites the names of his children over and over, a litany that has become a kind of prayer. Thomas. Margaret. Little Anne. Thomas. Margaret. Little Anne. As if repetition alone will keep them alive in his memory. As if saying their names is the last thing he can do for them, the last gift he can give. He listens to the woman in cell 12 who sings a hymn in a language he does not recognize. Not Latin. Not French. Something older, perhaps, or something she has invented in her madness, a tongue spoken only here, only now, in this cell that smells of decay and desperation. Her voice is cracked and fragile, barely audible above the drip of water, but she sings every night. The same hymn. The same melody that rises and falls like breathing, like the tide, like something that cannot be stopped no matter how broken the instrument. He does not know what the words mean. He suspects she does not know either. But still she sings. He listens, and sometimes, just sometimes, he wonders if he too is a prisoner here. If the keys he carries are as much his chains as theirs. He has a room above ground, a small chamber near the kitchen where he sleeps on a straw mattress and keeps his few possessions, a spare shirt, a wooden cup, a religious medallion his mother gave him before she died. He is free to leave. He could walk out the castle gates at any time, find work elsewhere, live a different life. But he does not. He has not left in 20 years. Because where would he go? What would he do? He knows nothing but this. He is nothing but this. The dungeon has shaped him the way water shapes stone, wearing away everything that was not essential, leaving only this hollow man who walks in darkness and says nothing. There are no windows in the dungeon. No clocks. No calendars. Time is measured only in the slow decay of the body, the gradual loss of hope, the quiet surrender to the dark. He sees it in the prisoners' faces, the way flesh falls away from bone, the way eyes lose their focus, the way hands stop reaching for the bars and simply hang limp at their sides. Some prisoners mark the days by carving lines into the stone. He has seen walls covered with these scratches, hundreds of them, thousands, counting down to nothing. Others stop counting altogether. What is the point, after all, when no one is coming? When the world above has moved on, indifferent to the suffering buried beneath its feet? He knows every prisoner's story, though they have never told him. He has heard them whispered to the darkness, confessed to God or the rats or the silence itself. He knows who is innocent and who is guilty. He knows who deserves mercy and who deserves nothing. But it does not matter. His opinion was never asked. His judgment carries no weight. He is just the keeper. The man who brings the bread and empties the buckets and locks the doors. The man who makes sure the machine continues running, even if the machine's only purpose is to grind human beings into dust. The torch burns low. The wax has nearly run out. He stands, his knees protesting, and begins the long climb back to the surface. Behind him, the sounds continue. The breathing. The weeping. The names being recited like a rosary. The hymn in a language that does not exist. He does not look back. He never looks back. To look back would be to see them as people. And he cannot afford to see them as people. Not if he wants to return tomorrow. Not if he wants to survive this. The dungeon keeper climbs the stairs. He locks the door behind him. And the darkness settles in once more, thick and absolute, like a held breath that will never be released. Above him, the castle sleeps. Below him, the prisoners wait. And he stands between them, neither fully in the light nor fully in the dark, neither free nor imprisoned, neither alive nor dead. Just a man without a name, carrying keys that open nothing, walking a path that leads nowhere, serving a purpose he stopped understanding years ago. But he will return tomorrow. He always does. Because this is all he knows. This is all he is.